Today is a beautiful spring day in mid-May, and I am sat contemplating the view overlooking the ornamental garden in Fletcher Moss Park in Didsbury, on the southern edge of the city of Manchester. The weather is good, with a strong breeze animating the trees and shrubs which surround me. The gardens themselves are wonderful, and they are alive with the songs of birds and the hum and buzz of insects. However, it is not my intention to explore them today. They can wait for another time. No, today I intend to take a walk on the wild side, for Fletcher Moss Gardens are situated on a hill overlooking the floodplain of the River Mersey, and just a short walk away is a wetland wood, typical of the landscape which once predominated throughout the course of the Mersey, from here to its estuary at Liverpool. The name of the area is Stenner Woods, and our route to it lies down this path. As we walk down the track in the general direction of the River Mersey, the woodland begins to take on a more natural aspect, and there are tracks leading to fairly secluded glades. We are still relatively high here, so there is little chance of getting our feet wet, although that will soon change. Nonetheless, those who wish to do so can sit here and listen to the sounds of the natural world in peaceful contemplation, and even perhaps imagine they are 1,000 miles away from the hustle and bustle of the world's first industrial city. All around me, the birds continue to sing, as they have done for millions of years, and I am reminded that the total lifespan of the human race is but a wink of Mother Nature's eye. As we descend, the ground becomes notably wetter, although we have had little rain recently, and soon we have accessed the boardwalk, which will enable us to cross the deeper stretches of waterlogged ground. There is much to see and do here, whether your interest be birds and wildlife generally, or the study of plants and flowers. You can even go pond dipping if you have a net and a mind to, for the pools have breeding populations of frogs, toads and newts, and minnows can also be caught here. Remember, however, it is vitally important that everything you catch goes back into the water. In the wet woodland areas, the landscape is dominated by cracked willow trees, much of the ground being submerged in water throughout most of the year. The wardens leave the dead trees in situ wherever possible, because beetle larvae and other invertebrates soon take possession of the dead wood, and this is an important source of food for birds such as the great spotted woodpeckers and tree creepers, which abound here. The website of the Friends of Fletcher Moss informs us that other birds which can be found here include, amongst our domestic species, blue and great tits, flocks of long-tailed tits, wrens, nuthatches, tree creepers, robins, blackbirds, thrushes and dunnocks, jays and magpies. These are joined by the summer migrants, usually from Africa, most notably chiffchaffs, willow warblers, sand martins, swallows, house martins and blackcaps. There is the usual unmistakable presence of swifts, a wonderful sight along the river when they are actively catching flies, and for many years swallows have nested under the arch in the sluice gate beyond Millgate Lane, returning to the same nest after a winter round trip to South Africa of some 7,000 miles. More rarely, a whitethroat will sometimes be heard singing in various areas of the woods. Increasingly, there are ring-necked parakeets, whose native home is originally the foothills of the Himalayas, adding brightness and noisy shrieks, as they do nowadays in most South Manchester parks. Along the riverbanks, butterbur is prolific, which in times past was used to wrap and store butter. On the riverbank you can also find stitchwort, not the more usual greater stitchwort, but the broader leaf wood stitchwort, with white star-shaped flowers. And there is an abundance of ramsons, or wild garlic. You can pick it and use the leaves raw or cooked, but beware, it can be surprisingly strong. The yellow-flowered lesser celandines are also very evident. This cheerful little plant is often seen as a pest by gardeners and a pleasure to nature lovers. Wordsworth wrote 2 poems in its praise. You will also find marvellous displays of the glorious yellow kingcups, that is marsh marigolds, around the edges of the ponds, particularly on the east side of Stenner Woods. This area, along with the adjoining Millgate Fields, is a nature reserve and well worth a visit. One does not need to close one's eyes to think back to a time before the rumble of railways and the stink and pollution caused by mills and factories transformed the surrounding landscape and drove out the boggarts, hobgoblins, water nymphs and fairies that our ancestors believed populated the wild marshlands of southeast Lancashire and northeast Cheshire. Unfortunately, it is now time for me to begin my walk home to West Didsbury. I hope you have enjoyed our short exploration, and perhaps you will be encouraged to take a walk on the wild side of South Manchester and enjoy a few hours in what is undoubtedly one of its most wonderful hidden gems.